administrator here.
It's a mystery.
Public Library. Polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. The testing of voting equipment will be on Wednesday, March 30th at 10 a.m. at Village Hall. I'd like to thank the outgoing members, Kevin and Bill, for your service as village trustees. Next, we have open book is scheduled for Monday, April 18th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. It is via phone, virtual appointment, or email only. Property owners may call Associated Appraisal during their regular business hours of Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30 to set up an appointment. The number is 920-749-1995. The preliminary 2022 assessment rolls will be available on their website soon. And then Board of Review, which all trustees are a part of that, will be on Monday, June 6th from 5 to 7. So I think that's before the Plan Commission meeting. If property owners wish to enter a formal appeal on their assessment, they must give notice of intent to appeal by contacting myself, the village clerk, at least 48 hours before Board of Review begins. And we also scheduled the Joint Review Board meeting for the annual TID report, Wednesday, September 14th at 6 p.m. That we'll have a Zoom link, but I think we can also meet in person if whoever's on that committee wants to do that. And then last but not least, on behalf of the Village Hall staff, we would like to thank Michael Axon for keeping us moving forward the last few months. And we are excited to work with Brian to continue making Cross Plains a great place to live, work, and visit.
All right, thank you. All right, anything else? All right, we'll move to general business. Number one, discussion and possible action regarding resolution authorizing the issuance of 775,000 general obligation promissory note series 22A. Okay.
Actually, you'll get Mr. Johnson.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. That's just what should be. I'm actually David Ferris from Ellers, so I'm number 2 on the list on the front cover of what Bobby passed out. But as you know, we took bids on Friday for your 2022 general obligation notes. As you can tell by what I passed out, the amount that was actually approved at the end that you'll consider tonight is an amount of $763,000, and that's because the bid that the Bank of Cross Plains put in actually enabled us to downsize the issue by $12,000. So I've got some good news to show you here. Even in an increasing market, you actually had a better bid than the city of Sheboygan, which is pretty good because they're rated pretty highly. So the State Bank of Cross Plains really came through for you. As you know, the purpose of this issue is to finance your cost of equipment, street improvements, and some facility improvements and park improvements. You had 2 bids. Like I said, the bids are actually on page 3. There was 2 bids. Bankers Bank is not actually who submitted the bid. And we needed to clarify that. There was actually a little talk with bond counsel today. They actually assisted from Peoples, and that saved you about $26,000 of interest because of the difference in that bid. Like I said, the principal amount was reduced by about $12,000 because of trying to see if he's got something in here. There must have been some issuance costs that were in here to begin with that came in a little bit better. It doesn't have a comparison on page. Oh, no page numbers. This is the second time I've presented where there's no page numbers, but there's a page that says capital improvements financing that shows the issuance costs Most likely there was a reduction of those costs from the pre-sale report, and that enabled us to downsize the issue. I actually brought the pre-sale report, so I think that's good move here. Yeah, so we had, there's a discount that was included in here as almost as if it was going to be a market issue. And so because that underwriter's discount and the paying agent isn't needed in this case, that's why we're able to downsize the issue to the 763,000. So the closing date will be April 14th. That's the day you'll actually receive the funds into your account. That's the closing date. Also, that's the date that the interest starts calculating from. There are some schedules that Greg went through when he was here or when he was online about a month ago or so. I think the improvements are still the same. Like I said, on the next page, table 2, the change in that sizing sheet is the reduction of the issuance cost because there wasn't really an underwriter. The amounts that you see on the next page, which is table 3, he still tried to keep I think the real important thing that he talked about with you is because you have some projects coming up, he was trying to make sure that you were keeping your tax levy at the same rate so that you're able to afford that amount. So there was a bigger payment in the first year so that it kept your tax rate up. And that way, when you go to potentially do your borrowing in the fall for your other projects you're considering, that will fit right in there in the next year. So just like he kind of talked to you, we're trying to stabilize the tax rate. And I think where that demonstrates best is on table 4. It's kind of a blue and orange schedule. And off to the right side of the schedule, probably five columns from the left or from the right, you can see the tax levy dollar amount is staying pretty stable. And then there's some flexibility as far as the amounts in here. Maybe actually, I think he's got he's got the 22B also structured in here. So he's got both of those, both the one issue that you're considering tonight and the potential issue that you're considering in the fall. And that's coming over to keep your tax rate levy stable. And after that, it kind of comes down, which is something you'd want to see. You want to see that flexibility so that in the future, if you have projects, you'll be able to do those projects as well. So otherwise, there's a debt capacity slide in here. You're still pretty good. You're in the 30% right now. So that's a good sign after the borrowing even. And we did not have an interest rate graph on here, which would show you that I think you ended up doing pretty well compared to what the market's been doing lately, which has been just going like that. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, you had a really good bid from the State Bank of Cross Plains. And anything you have, I can feel free now.
Does anybody have any questions? Go ahead, Judy.
I just heard from another banker that he tried to reach out to Greg 3 times, we 2 bid on this project, and we never got back to him. Was Greg out?
What was the name?
That might be more my fault. So Greg emailed me and he asked if I had sent the bid letter to Monona Bank. And I said, yep, this is who I sent it to. And then he said he had gotten the email from the other guy. And so, but I asked like when it was, and it was after I had sent the email. So I thought they would just communicate with each other. And apparently that didn't happen.
You guys was on vacation, so that's why Dave was reaching out.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I
Oh,
will take fault for that then.
I think maybe in the end, from what you talked about before the meeting, maybe it didn't matter.
no, I think you should still come get your better raise, but I'm.
Oh, really?
That's still competition. so
Yeah, yep.
But, yeah. Okay, that's-
Any other questions? I have one. I guess I understand the front loading of this, but because it's in 1 year, I guess what I'm wondering why we just wouldn't use cash for the first year and save the $22,000, dollars in interest. I understand the whole thing is stabilizing our tax levy and everything, but we're adding 186,000 to it just next year. So we'll be talking about that come October already.
You're adding what to it? Because you're actually going to have the exact same levy as you had in 22. So there won't be an add on to the levy. It's remaining flat.
is rather than paying the 22,000 in
Yeah,
interest.
no, I understand that.
Okay, okay.
I understand that, but the question what I'm trying to justify is spending the 22,000 in a 1-year period instead of just,
I don't think it's 22, it's a 2% rate per 100,000, paying $2,000 would be $4,000.
well, I don't know, I'm just reading their thing. It says levy interest 22,700.
Yeah, you're reading
Table
that.
3, unless you're seeing something different. Maybe I'm misreading it, but it says principal rate interest total.
Yeah, that interest is for everything else that isn't paid yet, it's the whole bonding.
Yeah.
It just isn't, well, what you're accruing is on 186,000 in that year would be close to $3,500 in interest.
Right.
Right, that's the whole total.
Right, so
Everything.
that,
Okay,
that
explain
includes
that
all,
again.
that includes like interest on all the maturities, so, you know, you're, even if
The
you,
whole 10 years.
Yeah.
you're paying $22,000. The slice on the 186 or 164,000 is only like $3,000 of that 22.
Well, I'm looking at the bottom where it says total and it says 87,000.
yeah, but you're gonna have a debt payment every year, so all those amounts that are due are creating interest, so you almost have to add up everything, like, I think it's about $600,000, that's the prior years that are creating most of that interest, and like the village trustee said, there's, you know, it's a part of what gets calculated in the first year, but a lot of that outstanding principal amount is there. So I mean, if you're talking about getting rid of the 22,000, you basically would have to not borrow.
Okay, let me just follow, okay. You guys, I'm getting, look, I'm reading table 3.
Yep.
And let's look at the bottom, which is the 763,000 that we're borrowing, right? So, and then we go over to interest of that loan, 87,000 at the 2.2%. 87,000 is the interest for this one loan, correct?
Right.
All right, and then we move over, so the total cost of this borrowing is 850,000.
Correct.
So I guess I'm still trying to figure out where you're saying it's accumulation of all our debt.
No, it's this issue. I mean, if you didn't, you would still have, if you didn't do, I'm trying to think of how I can actually say it to you. You know, if you didn't borrow the 763,000 and you had the 164 to begin with, you still would have had interest of about 20 some thousand, 18 some thousand on the amounts that are below that, because you've got a $600,000 loan. So, you know, the only way you're going to be able to fund your projects, if you don't have the cash on hand, is to borrow. And so that's that first year's interest, which is due next, what's the payment dates on these?
It would be April 20.
Yeah, so-
April 14th, right?
Yeah, so it's,
Said that starts.
yeah, I don't have the exact payment dates here.
So I thought you said the loan is April 14th when we get the money, and then the interest starts at that, so I would think the 12 month would go back to April 14th.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so like if your payment date is April 1st of next year, you know, that's like a full year's worth of interest. But,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of the reason that you have, because you're paying so much off right off the bat, you know, that's getting rid, you know, it would have been a lot more expensive had that number been pushed down, and then you would have had that levy change as well.
So when you bid this is the formula that the bank knew?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, and actually when Greg provided this to you a month ago, he used 2.75%.
Correct.
And so you actually saved a decent chunk of money because they came in so much lower.
Well, yeah, but we had bids, we went out and did our own bidding, and we actually had one that was much lower than this.
Well, that was November though.
Yeah, it was in November, but it was.
Yeah, that's a different
half
market.
that. Yeah, I know, but I'm just stating.
Yep.
I understand.
Yeah, I wish we could go back to November, believe me.
Okay, I guess I'll just have to, in future years, get a little bit more. I knew he was adjusting it to keep the tax levy.
Yeah.
I just didn't know it was so front ended. I mean, you're paying 25%.
Well, no, I mean,
interest
if we'd
in
had,
the first year.
if we had 763,000, let's say we had level principal and interest on
Yeah.
that, your total interest would be higher because you're not paying off as much so fast. So if we had level principal
Right.
this whole way through,
And I think
this would
that's
be much
something we
more
have to
expensive.
talk about in the future.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but this actually saved you money by having it front end loaded. Plus it keeps your tax levy stable so that you can do another project in the fall and it fits right to that number.
We can argue
Yeah.
different ways of.
Well, you know,
interpreting it, but I'm fine with it.
I was gonna say, we could send you like a level principal type of a scale and show you that it's much less expensive by having that front payment.
I figured that because but the bank is also getting more, 25% of its profit in the first year. So it has working capital versus waiting, spending that over. But anyways, that's a whole nother discussion. I'm fine. If this is what we told the bank and this is what they bid on, then we're kind of, in my opinion, I just have to understand it a little bit more before.
Yeah, and like I said, when Greg was here, basically you had some projects that we were trying to fit in and you had the ability to do
No, I
it.
remember that
So, yep.
discussion and I was
Okay.
cool with it. And I even gave him credit for using a very conservative number and all that good
Sure.
stuff. So I have no problem. with that. I just needed to ask a little bit more and at least. see
Oh,
a little bit
we're happy to
more.
run something that maybe shows you better what happened with it. So,
Yeah, that's cool.
we'll get something to you so that you can see it and we can do it a couple different ways. Just,
You don't need to do that. I don't want to waste.
are you sure?
any-
Okay.
Yeah, this is.
I just want to make
we're
sure
gonna
that,
vote on it as
yeah.
It's just something for me to keep to remind later on.
Right.
Go ahead.
Or just even if you're concerned that we're gonna have a first year front end loaded so much, just to not take that out as loan is what you're asking. We just.
I think there's a lot of variables you need to look at. That's
Right.
I think the thing you'd want to think about with the cash is what is your cash position like? Do you have a big fund balance? Because a lot of times you don't want to use up that
No, I-
fund balance real quick either. So, yeah,
Understood.
okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Any other questions? I don't want to take up too much time. All right. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution regarding authorizing the issuance of the $775,000 general obligation promissory note series 2022A.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second discussion. Bill,
Is it 775 or 763?
763.
763? Yeah, we need to amend that motion.
Coral sent you new resolutions.
They
today as
did,
well.
yep.
Yeah.
I thought the new resolution was in there.
Yeah, I think you read it off of.
He read it off the agenda.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's a typical sale day thing where the Corals gives us something first. Yeah.
So we should probably vote that down. So we don't want to borrow 7.5.
Or
Well, just
Friendly
can we just do an amendment
I'll amend this, that,
to, thank you.
Amend it to 763.
amend this, that, yes.
All
right.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to amend it to 763,000. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, opposed, same. All
I'm a-
right,
I abstain.
okay, Judy's abstaining. All right, so we have the original motion and second with the changes. Any other discussion? All right, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Brochus,
Yes.
trustee Thuzius,
Yes.
trustee Brunner,
Yes.
trustee Paul Mikowski,
Yes.
trustee Hartman,
Yes.
trustee Calvater,
Abstain.
trustee, or president Langfeld.
Yes. All righty. Very good. Number 2, discussion and possible action regarding a road agreement between Cardinal Hickory Creek and the Village of Cross Plains.
All right, so John Calloway is here tonight online. He's going to give a short presentation to you about what this kind of what this entails, but it's a road repair reimbursement agreement with Cardinal. He is actually talking to you from ATC. He'll give you his full background, but I believe so the ATC local program. So John, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And can folks hear me okay and see me if you need to?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much. As was stated, I'm John Calloway. I'm with ATC, American Transmission Company. Most or all of you are probably familiar or aware of the Cardinal Hickory Creek project, which is a 345 kV transmission line project. It does not actually go through any portion of the Village of Cross Plains. But in our road use plans, to be able to get to areas where we're doing construction, we would seek to access certain roads in the village. The bulk of them are county roads or the state highway. Oh, thanks for that. I was going to describe it. That's good. But there's P and then of course KP and Highway 14, but there's a small portion of, and Mike, I'll rely on you to help me if I've got this wrong. I believe it's Market Street there, where at least empty trucks would be coming through. So we've identified that portion of village roadway or street that we would be on. The road agreement is one that we've proposed to every municipality throughout the entire project area. Thus far, everyone has signed them or is, as you are, contemplating signing them. What it essentially does is create a framework to resolve any road damage issues. And just to be clear, we have the absolute obligation to fix anything that we break. The process that we've proposed here and that we've used for these projects for more than a decade is to videotape, still footage, and Pazer rate all the roads that we're going to drive on, provide that to the municipalities so we can be confident that we've got a good starting point or frame of reference for the roads. And then when the project is complete, we'll do that same thing again as need be to see what is the difference. As I mentioned earlier, we have the obligation to fix anything that we break. Just to be clear, our obligation is to return the road to the condition it was in. So if a road were a Pazer rating of 10 before we were on it, and we were done, it was a 7, we have to get it back to a 10. If a road was a Pazer rating of, say, a 6 when we started, and when we were done, it's a 4, our obligation is to get it back to a 6. And so sometimes that involves, patching or tack and wedge or whatever it may be. Many times it involves getting an estimate for repairs, paying the village that, and then the village would turn around and decide when or how they want to do those repairs. There's a lot of municipalities where we've got miles and miles and miles of roads that we're driving on, town roads and so forth. In this case, again, I think that segment of Market Street is pretty short. In conversations I've had with village staff, I believe there's actually plans to replace that bridge, if I'm remembering correctly at some point. This communication is helpful because I think the plan might be to defer that until our work is done, just so we're, not trying to replace a bridge in the middle of trying to run truck traffic across it. The agreement spells out a process where we pay the village $5,000 non-refundable fee, basically a permit or a permission fee up front. And then we also, as part of this agreement, would pay $500 for any load that exceeded 80,000 pounds. I don't know, as I sit here today, if we would have any of those, although it's possible we'd have at least some. The agreement calls for us to go ahead and make an additional $1,000 payment, so $5,000 plus $1,000, also non-refundable, as an advance on any overweight loads. So if we finished with 5 overweight loads owing the village $2,500, we would deduct the $1,000 that we'd paid up front. If we finished with 0 or 1 overweight load, we don't seek to claw back that $1,000 payment or the $500 difference. That just stays with the village. So I'll pause because I've spoken nonstop for about 7 minutes to see if people have questions or additional things to discuss or clarify.
Kevin?
Yeah, wondering, John, why observatory wouldn't be used in those situations to get from one place to the other? The road to the south.
Yeah, why are we on observatory? Sure.
Why wouldn't you use the observatory instead of coming down Main Street?
Well, we do use observatory. We access observatory off of P, but part of the issue is that there are a couple of vehicles that we're not going to be able to turn around on observatory. So they're going to come in loaded on P, go up observatory. It's actually right next to the University Observatory where we have off right-of-way access. They'll unload there, and then the empty trucks will continue down observatory and come back out through the village.
Thank you. And my next question is why Main Street and not Bourbon Road?
Oh boy,
That's the road just south of the rail line. That's Mike's. Yeah, Mike's on it right now on the computer.
Oh, sorry. I was looking at my own map. Let me go back to there. I apologize for, as I sit here today, not being able to answer that question. I can certainly get an answer, but I would say this, in all likelihood, it either has to do with other things that are going on that road, either whether there be a bridge or a culvert or something else that we'd prefer to stay off of. Clearly, the state highway is rated much better for heavier vehicle traffic versus municipal roads. So when we've got a choice between one or the other, in this case, being on 14, and we're not talking dozens and dozens of loads. I don't think there's going to be a significant number, but it made more sense to take 14 to market and get to KP that way. Well, in this case, they're actually coming the other way, right? They're gonna come up market, turn right on 14 and go through town. The other traffic coming in will probably come 14 and turn left there at the quick trip on P and cross that way for loaded traffic.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, along those lines, you're determining this traffic flow based on what?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. Determining the traffic flow based on what?
Yeah. So what are you actually determining this theoretical traffic flow? Like traffic might go down this way or that way.
Oh, well, again, empty trucks that will have gone up Observatory and unloaded will come down Observatory to Garfoot and then through town. So that might be, you know, a truck that delivered wood mats that continued on. There might be a crane that comes that way, a lowboy trailer that had a crane on it that would come that way, empty. I know that we've got a similar exercise in the town of Middleton to the east, obviously, and I think we had 7 to 10 empty mat trucks coming through, and 3 to 6 like flatbeds, empty flatbeds coming through. I can't tell you exactly what the count would be here, but it's not dozens or hundreds. It's a smaller, more manageable number, just based on what materials we're delivering to that portion of the right of way that has us needing to come back this way.
Thanks.
Two or three structures that we're setting up off Observatory.
Bill.
Hey, John, so I just want to clarify, there is one, we do have a relatively new bridge on Highway P, so that's something you'd also be responsible for if there was damage or anything like that, correct?
Yes, and that's been rated, and all of those reports, the photos, the video log, the rating of any bridges, culverts, and pavement has all been submitted to the village. And that was done in September and October of 21. So we captured that work in the fall before winter, close in time to when our work started in November and December. And those are, you know, that's exists and it's preserved. And then when we get to the back end and finish up, there can be a re-review, and it can be as simple as Public Works making a visual inspection, or if there is a concern about wanting to, you know, be confident if there's some indication or feelings about crack or damage, we'll just go ahead and do the same forensic review on the back end.
And then what's your estimated timeline of getting everything completed over there off of P? Or are you using our roads?
Yeah, I'm gonna work backwards and try and get to an answer specifically as it relates to P. Our in-service date, our energization date for the line is December of 2023. So in a little more than 18 months. We're building this line from the east to the west. So we're actually starting in Middleton and then making our way down to Mount Horeb and then along 18151 to Dodgeville and then Dodgeville to Montfort. So the bulk of our work in the town of Cross Plains and the town of Middleton that would impact the village of Cross Plains and so forth is going to be here in 22. But there will be a demobilization effort at the end of the project, bringing out wood mats and so forth and things like that, that could easily be well into 23. So I can't give you a hard and fast, this is when we'll be done. I can tell you, as I said, when our energization is, which is the end of December. Almost all of the demobilization will be done before then. I imagine there may be some restoration work that goes on into 2024, but that's going to be more dump trucks and bucket trucks and things like that, that really aren't going to be the weight issue of some of the 50, 60, 70, 80 or 100,000 pound vehicles that would be utilized for the construction.
Cool, thank you.
Yes.
Anybody else? All right, thank you, John. Do I have a motion to for this agreement between Cardinal, Hickory Creek and the Village of Cross Plains? Bill,
I'll make a motion to approve the road agreement between Cardinal Hickory Creek and the Village of Cross Plains.
do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Discussion. Kevin?
I know Jerry's not on the phone or here, but can you summarize anything that Jerry or the staff said?
Yeah, Jerry did hear about it. We sent him information on it. He said looks good, nothing out of the ordinary, and that's what he expected from it, so.
Anybody else? All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Did you catch that? All right. Very good. Motion passes. All right, number 3. Thank you.
Sorry. No, thank you. I'll jump off. I'll get the executed copy from the village, get everything memorialized, turned around. Usually takes about 2 weeks to get that initial $6,000 payment, but I'll see all that through here in April. Thank you very
Sounds
much.
good.
Thank you.
All right, discussion and possible action on 2021 annual MS4 permit. Who wants to give a quick
All
summary of
right,
that?
so Brian Berquist is on.
Oh.
As Jerry's not here, so Brian will give you all you need to know about this.
All right, sounds
Thanks,
good.
Brian.
Give it to us, Brian.
Good evening, everyone. I will just quickly paraphrase the documentation in the packet and certainly answer any questions that may come up. For both the veterans and then the newer folks, the village is part of a group of communities that is required to permit your stormwater discharge, just like you permit your wastewater discharge, or a factory has to permit their discharge into public waters and streams. Your requirements are predicated by your proximity to Black Earth Creek. Other communities in the area are also required to permit based on mostly their proximity to the city of Madison. So just as an aside, Middleton needs to do this, but Black Earth does not. Because you're kind of stuck in the middle between a large urban area and also the sensitive creek nearby. This has been in place since 2017, and it essentially is a series of creating procedures, documentation parameters, and computerized models of your stormwater system to document that the village is meeting the DNR standards for stormwater discharge. The requirements, the physical requirements are 20% removal of total suspended solids in your runoff. That is very small particulate. Generally, it's called the first flush. The first half inch of rain will wash off those fine dust particles from the streets, in particular the streets, and into the creek. Those fine particles are what's been found to capture VOCs, oils, chrome, metal bits from streets, phosphorus. So that's what we're trying to trap. And the village has been doing that via a number of methods since well before the DNR started regulating this. That is your infiltration areas, your ponds, the way Jerry manages his inlets, up to and including even street sweeping. So there's not a jar that we hold underneath the pipe. It's a computer software called SLAM, SLAMM is the acronym, that we put in all the land uses, all their areas, how dirty the surfaces are. Rooftops are considered clean. Grass areas are considered somewhat dirtier, and streets are considered most dirty. You do not model any of the agricultural areas in town. Those are exempt, so it's just developed spots. And you were found then, and you continue to be achieving TSS removal at about 30.6%. So you've been exceeding your minimum since the start. But it also comes with an annual reporting requirement where we document the different activities that have been going on in the village, educational events, enforcement events, how Jerry does his inspections, how often he cleans things, how many tons of salt they use for the roads, how many loads of leaves and grass get picked up every year. And that gets submitted to DNR, and they will review that, on occasion audit. So far, you're 5 years in and things have been going smoothly. There's nothing really new or exciting to report in this one. If you did compare it to last year's or previous years, you'll notice it's a bit longer. And that's because of some additional requirements that DNR applied across the state, mostly tied to inventorying other people's stormwater management areas. So you had to compile a map and a list of other folks, privately owned best management practices in town, and make sure those places are keeping their end of the bargain up. So the last requirement of the report is to present it to the village board in a public meeting and ask if there's any questions. So that's what we're here to do tonight. And with that, I'll stand by and answer any questions.
Thank you, Brian. Questions for him? Well, I think you did a great job. No one has any questions.
Hopefully they're all awake still.
Yeah.
Do you need a motion to approve?
Yes, we'll need a
Yes, we do.
motion to approve the 2021 annual MS.
Jake, can I ask one question?
Oh, go ahead.
Brian, I have one question. You said we're removing at 30.6%.
Mhm.
What is our required level and could we do better?
The minimum required is 20. You can always do better. It comes with some diminishing returns on cost and staff power. Some items that the village may want to consider in the future, because there have been rumblings of a 40% level sometime in the future, is to modify your modeling to include street sweeping. Right now, your modeling does not include street sweeping because you've got a mechanical broom. It's like not a vacuum, rotating brush. If the village is ever in the market for a replacement street sweeper, there is a type of model called a vacuum sweeper, which, as the name implies, it sucks the dust and dirt off the street as opposed to brushing it, which has actually been found to sometimes in some streets create TSS. Those run about $500,000. So most communities are not purchasing them unless they're at 19.5 and they just can't get over the hump. So that would be one item that whenever, if ever you replace your street sweeper, you should at least look at a vacuum. There are grant programs through DNR to help subsidize those purchases. The other items would be going into developed areas, and either, as part of Brewery Road, for example, the village continues to construct its street projects with what are called sumps in the inlets. You've been doing that for a long time. But every time you build a street, you add more sumps, which are 18-inch bottoms to every inlet that collects and holds that sediment. And Jerry and the guys clean that out when they get full. The more you have of those, the better you get. Those don't add a ton. After Brewery Road, you'll probably be at 30.8 or something. Shy of that, it's going into already established neighborhoods and retrofitting stormwater ponds, which unfortunately requires property. So from that's generally the limit of effort per dollar. But those two other items, keeping up with your sumps on street reconstruction projects, and we would do that unless you tell us differently. And then keeping your eyes open when you go shopping for a street sweeper.
Okay, great. Thanks, Brian.
All right. Did we have a motion where we were in the midst of doing it? Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2021 annual MS4 permit.
All right. All right. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. So moved. All right, discussion and possible action on Brewery Road redevelopment. Michael, is this something for you?
I could talk about it, sure.
All righty.
So last Wednesday, we had a visioning session for the redoing of Brewery Road. Included in the packet were the ideas submitted, the rough ideas submitted by Town and Country, sidewalk placement, east side, west side, both sides, demonstrating where the right of way is. It's a fairly narrow right of way through there. And then before that, about a month before that, I had asked, I was put on the village website, anyone in the village could comment for their ideas on the project. I went around and put flyers on many of the houses along there to notify people that this was going on, including the packet or the 16 emails that I received from people. As discussed inside that, and then I just wrote up a quick summary of basically what kind of went on at the discussion. A lot of it, pretty much what was discovered was keeping it between the existing curb widths would cause less issues with all residents down there. Just because you're not encroaching on any property, you're not taking anything away from people. A lot of these ideas were new at that meeting, so a lot of it there wasn't any feedback on. Specifically, it was discussed not really on the west side of Brewery. If anyone's been down there, it's a hillside comes down, there are utility poles. Inside there was a discussion about a retaining wall along there. Putting in a retaining wall, according to Jerry, can be expensive. It's going to require maintenance. You might just want to leave it the way it is and not touch the situation. So then that would eliminate that side of the street with placement of a sidewalk or a path. That would also remove that sidewalk or a path from those being essentially in those people's backyards, because it would be the back of their house, and they would have to somehow figure out a way to get a snow blower down there, or they'd have to get down there and shovel a sidewalk. This same sort of situation exists on the north end of Brewery. Once you get past Hillside, it's backyards of people's houses on Brewery. Again, the same situation, possible path in people's backyards. So, if you want to avoid that area for the same ideas, there you go. Then it allows a sidewalk on alternating sides of the street. This was just an idea that was presented. That should we want to place a sidewalk there, I also discussed that this through the email vote, the placing a sidewalk or a path along the street was about split 6-6. If you go through and read the emails, you have people that are in favor and you have people that are against. So, we aren't deciding anything tonight. I don't even know if we are deciding anything tonight, unless we're just, it's just what's going on. This kind of gives the engineering firm an idea to draw the 30%, a little bit more concrete topographical pictures of what would really go on top of the road.
Yeah, I think just so everybody's aware, if you remember when we did this is just to take input, and then I would imagine the thought was then the engineers would come up with some options, and then we would present them to the public again.
Oh yeah,
for
there's
input. So
yeah, there's gonna
that's
be
kind of, so yeah, you're correct. The only action we would take is what's the next step, and and we've already kind of have an outline to that. So
yeah, the next step is another public comment meeting where this is the way it's going to really look on your yard, the way the street will really look.
right, yeah,
Or possibly look,
Right.
not really look, possibly look.
is that your understanding, Brian?
Yes, the concept schedule for this contemplated a meeting in mid-August to get a look-see at those 30% plans, solicit additional comments, with the idea of end of September, we'd have another meeting with the folks available to the folks on the street at the 80% level, interspersed there with reports back to the village board with some of those concept levels. As you saw in the packet, those were very schematic cartoons almost that were provided there. We've got survey going on as we speak, so we'll be able to, as Mike pointed out, just kind of get things to look a little more realistic on how these different options can look, and then see what folks think over the next couple months.
Well, Michael, I appreciate you taking lead on this. Any questions for Michael or Brian? Go ahead, Bill.
So didn't we just do some repairs on brewery a couple years ago or?
5 years ago.
We did.
Or 3 years ago. Storm, yeah.
After the storm, after the rain, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So is there more that, I mean, are we going in to replace brewery to replace water mains and sewer and all
Right.
that? Is that the idea behind what?
Yeah, stormwater, yep.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it was clear why we're not just going to make it look nice.
Oh, no, no.
Like we're actually
The main reason is not stormwater, but sewer.
sewer, yeah,
Because we're putting in a pump that will be at capacity because of creek crossing.
gotcha. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
As a quick aside on that, the repairs that were done post flood were, as Jerry Luffin refers to them, they were Band-Aids. They were not full depth asphalt patches. They were intended to keep it glued together for another 5 to 10 years before the utilities kind of drove a reconstruction.
Okay.
So, yeah, and hopefully there'll be some stormwater mitigations or improvements made along brewery. I haven't had a chance to discuss, but hopefully with a little bit, sounds like there could be some to get water down that road or off the road or however.
Yeah, I feel that. Okay, anything else? All right.
I got one more
Oh,
question.
Go
Hey,
ahead.
Brian, sorry. How many things have happened in the last 5 years, 10 years, where it's been mitigation from decisions that weren't actually made? Like, for example, with the Glacier Ridge development versus the fact that we're like still trying to develop this, water flow underneath Laufenberg Avenue. Like, it just seems like we're constantly redoing things that we should have done in the first place. Am I wrong in assessing it that way?
I'm struggling to recall one where recent decisions were reversed or made to redo.
Sure.
The Brewery Road, I guess for this project in particular,
Sure.
this was originally identified as an eventual bottleneck just over 20 years ago, with a village-wide sanitary sewer analysis, and that document has guided everything from treatment plant to the Main Street project to Valley projects in the past. So this is actually the last piece of that document, right? It was recommended 2 decades back. So from a sanitary sewer standpoint, this has always been known as the last piece. So that's part of the reason Jerry had just temporarily patched the flood damages is this. We knew this was coming sooner than later. The stormwater comments from the folks obviously is colored at least a little bit by the disaster in 2018. That box culvert underneath Brewery Road right now is very, 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 very old, generations old, and it's probably undersized. Whoever sized it 40, 50 years ago probably undersized it, and it's at that weird angle, which doesn't help anything.
Yeah.
So that's the big crux of the stormwater part of it. It's a bit of a balancing act, however, in that any increases in flood capacity we provide here have a direct impact downstream. So that'll have to be a balancing act from an engineering standpoint. We can certainly address storm sewer sizing. This area was developed in a time well before storm sewer standards and don't even think about stormwater quality. So there haven't been any real investments in this area since. And lastly, the water main itself it's original. So there haven't been any improvements here. Again, kind of waiting for that point where the combination of underground and above ground improvements reached critical mass and the village would move ahead. So I'm not familiar with the example you mentioned, but on this particular corridor, this has been on the radar for quite some time, and fairly strategic decisions have been made or deferred because the village knew this was coming at some point.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate you.
Michael,
Just one quick, Brian, the Sundance development isn't finalized yet. I'm assuming that this sewer project will support that development if it is approved.
Yes, very much in concert with the recent discussion here tonight is any new piping, we will always size it for a 40-year look ahead. 40 years from now, we may have missed, but we try to be very conservative. This project would definitely, or will definitely have enough capacity for Sundance and beyond. Just to make sure we don't shortchange our futures.
Right, just so you don't have to redo it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that'd be horrible, horrible, horrible.
Okay, thanks, Brian.
any other questions? All right, we'll move on to number 5, discussion and possible action regarding approval of the specials event permit for the Cross Plains Lions Club for the 2022 Cross Plains Trout Days. Chief, are you here for that? Oh,
Motion to approve.
Second.
all right, we have a motion and a second. Let's have discussion. Maybe we should get brief. Go ahead, because I know
Yeah,
there's, you
just
should,
give a quick little overview here. So this year's event is planned for, they showed on here May 5th through the 7th. The big deal for this is May 7th is the Lions Club is kind of joining forces this year with the Chamber of Commerce. So it's an event full of a whole bunch of different activities, with the chamber adding the wine walk this year to this year's event. Reason this is on and not on the consent agenda is staff had some questions in regards to some of the requests and just wanted to make sure that you were abreast to what those requests were. The first one is that they were requesting to close down Mill Creek Parkway once again for one-way traffic only. And we got confirmation. We did talk with Mr. Kevin England today. Sorry, Chief, we meant to keep you on that, but you were with your own staff during that time. So because his request in the special event permit said that he was going to need more public safety appearance or an increased need for public safety. And so we just asked today, like, what was that? What does that mean? He said he wasn't really sure. So his plan as of right now is to not ask for more public safety or more police officers to be on scene, but to know obviously the events going on, and that he would reach out to volunteers, whether that be the firefighters and EMS who had done it 2 years ago, or if that doesn't work, then come back to the board and talk to the chief about adding police officers for that date.
so are they gonna post in the past when they've turned this into a one-way, they post somebody at the one-way to make sure
Correct.
there's a barricades don't get moved?
Correct. Yeah, 2 years
Okay.
ago, they actually used a fire truck, more or less. So they used a firefighter and then a fire truck in that location. We also had barricades set up, and this year in their diagram, they have cones kind of showcasing it.
All right.
You can see here. He couldn't remember which direction they went 2 years ago.
That's the way.
This way, okay, just making sure. We just had, discussions about, obviously there's residential people living there as well. So where he thought that they put the fire truck and people in about this location here.
See, I don't remember the fire truck. I just remember someone sitting with the barricade.
I don't remember it either, so that's the first request. The second request is fine with us designating parking or them going out to designate where people should park. And I said, absolutely, I think that's great. There's obviously the village sites, which are here behind the old fire station, east of the current fire station. And then we said Bourbon Road. So they're going to try and put that on some of their flyers, kind of let people know where to go for parking. The other request is that the village help provide porta potties for this event, or would the village be willing to add porta potties to the event? The one question I had was where would we want them or where would he want them? We obviously wouldn't want them anywhere near the creek. And it sounds like they had already called out and got some numbers from people, but they were saying they'd be there from Friday night through Sunday or Friday night through Monday. So I said they'd have to be secured down. If that was something that we offered.
They want them for that long, or the company
think
drops
the
them off and
companies-
then they can't get to pick them up? Because
Correct.
we're on, the event's only for Saturday.
Saturday, correct. But I think, they work Friday to Monday. I told him today that I wasn't comfortable with offering that, but that if you were open to the idea of it, could call Richardson, who we usually use, or call a number of those other companies that are listed on there as well. So,
You weren't, sorry, Mike, you weren't comfortable with having them out?
no, I wasn't comfortable with giving him the okay that the parks would take him up to pay for. 'em.
Oh,
Correct. Yeah.
What are they? It would be about $100.
They're about the quotes that they got were about I'd say 150 to 175 depending. And then the number of them that, obviously you want some regular ones and probably want at least one handicap one if you're gonna have them there. Handicap ones go for 250 plus.
Oh, is that right?
So
Could you put them in the parking lot, like across from the bowling, like that little parking lot?
it could, it's kind of a long distance from where everything's kind of happening. I had asked him about if, they were to be added, if it could be part of the lot, the Esser lot that's right next to Creekside. So it's actually not on public property.
Right.
Be good not to take parking too.
What's that?
It'd be good not to take any parking spots
Yeah.
too.
The other thought was, if you have one way for that day, the day would have been fine, is to have them like on the roadway.
Yeah, that's too bad we can't get them dropped off and picked up on the same day.
Well, and we could ask. It really depends probably on the vendor. It could be
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. We just use Stranders and they get it us, they pick it up on Saturday.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they would.
Stranders, where they are.
And we also used the bottom left or the southwest corner of that parking lot. We had our event there for 2 porta potties.
Where?
The southwest corner of the Esser lot,
Oh, this one here?
the lefter. Further west, the public parking lot.
Oh, on our lot over
Yeah,
here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And
That's where you put 'em?
Yeah, we left them up. We haven't taken down either that night or the next morning, but they weren't up there all weekend. I know that.
Yeah, I told them if they were gonna be up all weekend, that whoever does it should secure them to the ground. Just because I know the cleanup costs on a porta potty, and it's quite a bit of money. Depending on the company, but we've had a number of them tipped over through the summer, obviously. So if they're left out, that tends to be what happens.
That's easier to do
I know.
on grass than it is on pavement.
Is it?
Right,
You can secure in the cables.
Yeah, on grass. Yeah, that's what we do at the park.
but I'm just wondering if that's why maybe that Esser's lot where the gravel is,
Mhm.
I just don't know how level that is, but then you could pound stakes in and cable
Right.
them, but it's private, so
Right. It'd be more
I
like
wouldn't
the-
want us to do the ordering. I guess I don't have a problem kicking in $500 towards it as a
Donation.
village event, but it would be just a donation type. I don't want to get into the whole thing of being responsible if they get tipped over and smashed, that we are on the bill for it. That would be that's where I would go at the highest.
Or if we would say we get 500 and they use it as they need it. If they need only 300 for this and they got 200 left over, something like that. You just give it out. So we're not responsible for the toilets, is what I have to say. We just say
Just giving
$500 and
Giving a donation towards it.
Well, I'm just throwing
Right,
that
I know.
out. I don't, I don't want us to use staff time and ordering and then take on the liability of the bathrooms.
In the future, I would like to see that happen though, from a village standpoint, to make this more of a event that people want to come to. So we're putting more money and effort into and time from our village staff into this, but, and that's not this conversation. I get that.
Yeah. Well, but see, to me, I think where we should be doing, and that's why I brought it up earlier, we need to get the word out and help with the marketing of it. I think that's far more important
Right.
than a portable toilet, but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. we're
And
just
I
talking
think
about
we're
right
on the same page. Where we want to put our energy
now. Sure.
and staff time is where needs to be discussed maybe further. So,
And this will take a lot of our park and rec staff time, staff time, we're bringing out 15 picnic tables, We bring out probably about 12 trash cans and receptacles. We also go around and pick those up, all weekend. So there's definitely other staff time that's in.
Oh, yeah,
hours, but,
absolutely. That we're putting.
And this
into
year
it.
they have requested that, we have a booth and be more a part of the day activity. So we're going to do that with our activity guide and kind of talk to the community about what's going on, throughout the summer. So.
Okay, let's separate this a little bit because
Yep.
the agenda right now has the special event permit. So we have a motion and a second on that, right? So let's get that done. And then since we really haven't noticed the monetary, we can put that on the April one, and that should still,
Yeah.
I mean, they're gonna order them one way or the other probably, so just a matter if we help with that. So if you can make a note of putting that on, what kind of monetary support.
Yeah,
We would do that day.
I would ask for a clearer request, because I don't get that request from their special events. I just get it from you talking about it, so.
Yeah.
I think, one, if we can get a clear, you can get a clear request next month, and what that is for, and then in the future, working back with them, telling them to come to this board, not in March for the May event, but in January or December. I mean, we knew this event was coming, it's the same event. I understand, a lot of volunteers, it's hard work, we organize events too, but this is relatively late notice, and I got to secure, immediate collaboration with the village is needed to secure for the event. Coming to us in March is, I feel a little bit,
I do. I think there might have been uncertainty with COVID-19,
understand.
so, but I'm with you. They need to get here, even if it's January.
Just in our conversation today, that's exactly what we said. January, February would be ideal for staff and obviously.
It would take the pressure off them and.
Yeah, to get some of this stuff.
When did they actually lift the mask thing? I think they were waiting for that to be.
March 1st.
But that was never outside, well, not there, but it hadn't been outdoors.
For quite a
That
while.
was part of it. They didn't decide to really do this till after that.
I understand.
Yeah, no, it's like I say, there's reasons for it. All right, is there any other discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same. So moved. All right, we're gonna go to number 5 on the consent agenda. Michael, you wanted this pulled?
Yes, I did.
What are your concerns or questions?
My concerns are, let me get there. My concerns are that this is a very vague and broad document. It's on page 38. It asks for the village of Major Act behalf on the village to submit for financial aids.
You want to let Brian?
Oh,
Brian's actually on.
sure,
here for this
yeah.
as well. So.
Yep, that's my fault. That is actually a stock document that DNR requires a community have on file in order to submit grant applications. There is an upcoming grant program called the Urban Non-Point Source Grant, which covers stormwater improvements. And Jerry had a number of items that he had suggested for that, and we were preparing that application. We found that there wasn't one on file, and this is one that DNR is just provides as a stock document that instead of authorizing a specific human being, it authorizes a position at the village, so that this would go on file at DNR. And what this is saying is that something that the village administrator signs carries the authority of the village to apply for grants. So they want to make sure that whoever's name is on that is a village representative. And it has to be either elected official or senior staff. So that's what this is for, was to keep those grant applications moving for some of the things that we had kicked around at staff.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, because it read like.
It's
he could
very generic,
execute
very
any
vanilla. Yep. But that's what it was before, immediately before the Urban Non-Point Source program through DNR.
Okay, but approving monies would have to come through the board.
Oh, yes,
And all-
yes.
I mean, this is like, this
Yes.
just didn't read like that. It was talking very vague, and that's where I was like, wasn't sure where it was coming from.
So next steps would be, we'd submit an application. if successful, then a grant agreement would come and have to be approved by the board. It can only be approved by the board. If you want to do a project, you can always decline grant funds, obviously. But this document would then come into play if awarded and if the board wanted to do the thing that's contemplated. This would allow the administrator to then sign and submit reimbursement claims during a project, that kind of thing,
Right.
without having to reestablish, all right, now who's going to be doing this project, who's going to be doing that project. So DNR, they've tightened this up. This is kind of a new one for them, and this is their stock language.
Okay, thank you. I just didn't know what it
No problem.
was for, or,
I don't blame you. Don't blame you.
yeah, that was my question. It just
All
seemed
right,
like,
good then. Do
yeah,
I have a motion
I'll
then?
make that motion to approve.
and I'll second it.
Okay, what are we approving? We
Oh.
need to,
The resolution to authorize village administrator to apply for and manage the DNR stormwater runoff.
thank you.
And I'll
Second.
second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. So moved. All right, number 7, it has to do with repairs to the library. I pulled it off. I just need a clarification. In one of the documents, your financial report says this is covered by insurance. So I'm wondering why the insurance company isn't signing the contract, because to me, if we sign the contract, then we're liable for it. How do we, if the insurance company says, no, we're not paying for it, I don't want to be on the hook for $100,000.
Yep,
So
so,
help me understand that.
yep, so I sent this to the insurance company and they said that it was in line, basically, this is the same agreement they had, that they signed off on all this work. The insurance company has already paid us for 2/3 of the contract.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, the insurance company gave us the go ahead.
Okay, so we have the money, at least 2/3 of the
Mhm.
money for this already from the insurance
Yep.
company? Gotcha. Thank you for that clarification. So do I have a motion? Oh, I'm sorry, Michael.
So
You gonna do
then-
the motion?
No. So then we just have to approve this contract since for payment of the funds is what's going on?
Well, no, the contract that you have is for the work that this company is gonna do for the library.
Right.
Generally, the person who signs the contract is responsible for the money. And I was confused because it was an insurance. So generally, they sign a contract with the insurance company and handle it. We're out of it. We just get the work done.
So our insurance company's been weird. They've been having us pay and then they reimburse. So it's
Okay,
kind of
as long
backwards,
as,
but yeah.
as long as we're not being sued and that we get reimbursed, that's where my concern is on this.
And
Go ahead,
usually
Judy.
Insurance people make out the check to both of you, like to the village and to the person that's doing the work, and you both have to sign off. I'm surprised. That is so weird.
That's what I'm saying. It just did not make sense, but
And this was the contractor that the insurance company approved. So the previous contractor, the insurance company wouldn't approve. This is the contractor they approved with that amount. is what they approved. So-
Okay. As long as, I just wanted to understand all that. All right, can I have a motion, please?
I will motion to approve the contract with Paul Davis Construction for the Rosemary Garfield Public Library repairs.
Thank you. Do I-
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same. What's not on here, and I'll just, future agenda items. Anybody got anything? All right. Kevin, Bill?
Motion
Been
to,
great. Motion to adjourn, please.
to adjourn.
Bill? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same. So moved.
Hey.
All right.
I didn't know it was the last one.
Oh, yes.
Well, the election's creeping up on us.